What is up, everybody? How are you doing today? My name is Michael. This is John. We are the Fantasy Tap. It is football season.
Welcome, everyone, to the Fantasy Taps. You know, one of our first real season shows. I mean, today's going to be our first preview for week one. Extremely excited to be here with everyone today. Excited to give you guys a lot of great information and excited to start this season off. An extremely weird one with COVID. So, let's see what happens.
It's here.
It's here.
It's here.
You feel it?
It's here. Oh, my goodness. I can feel it. I can feel it. By the time they're listening to this, it's probably about 8 to 9 hours until kickoff. If you're listening in the morning, maybe you're on your way home from work and you're going home.
Setting that lineup on your drive home.
On their drive.
At every red light, because we don't text and drive or mess with our phones and drive.
They're stopping by the liquor store, picking up one of the beers we recommended. They're saying, I'm going to watch the Cheifs, the Texans. I'm going to crack a cold beer, and I am going to enjoy the first night of football.
So excited.
I'm very. Oh, man.
Can't be any happier. It's better than Christmas.
I've got goosebumps.
Cute.
So, anyways, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fantasy Tap. Before we get off on this, we could talk an hour about how excited we are. And we're going to pretty much. I mean, that's kind of what the show is about. But welcome. Happy Thursday, September 10th. We are very excited to be here today to talk about week one. But first, before we get into all of that, we have got our beer of the day, and that is the Jam Up the Mash Dry Hopped Sour, and that is by Collective Arts Brewing Company out of Hamilton, Ontario, Canada.
Yeah, happy to show some love to our northern brothers. Got us a beer from up there. How do you like it so far?
Enjoy it.
Enjoy it a lot. You know, it's supposed to be a hoppy sour.
We'll get to it later, but so far, one of my favorites.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, you like that.
Big fan
good.
already.
Big fan. But before we get into today, John and I want to give a little announcement on what we've got coming up. We always
argue.
Yes, great word. We always argue, and we always butt heads. So, you know, we were talking to some friends and some people, and we're like, you know, we need a gambling system on how we are going to prove each other right or wrong.
Or hold each other accountable for the blasphemy that someone might be speaking, or, you know, just check each other on some ideas that
pretty
might
much
be
punish
going on.
them. Pretty much punish them for being wrong, being a failure.
You know, Mike got away from me on a monetary bet last season about Matt Ryan, I believe it, or the Falcons making the playoffs.
It was rough.
I had no way to prove it, so he got out of that one. So we need to record him now. So hopefully we'll have
it here
coming up.
Yep, we do. It's called the Wheel of Failure.
That was clean.
Pretty dope, right?
Clean. I like it.
Dope.
Yeah, excited for it. So what we want is we're gonna need some options from you guys. Some sort of punishments that someone who gives bad information can give out for you guys. So currently we have stuff like something we were talking about prior to the show, which is something that's going to go on record as our first on-air bet is...
We'll get to it in a second.
Okay.
We'll get to it in the news.
But say that someone is wrong. We want some ideas from you guys. We have our own, but we want a couple from you guys of punishments for the person.
We're going to need about like 8 to 12-ish.
Nothing extremely painful.
Right.
Nothing,
extremely painful.
You know, mild pain is okay. We'll filter through. If we have some bad ones, we just won't use them. Nothing that's going to end up on a permanent record, any arrest records, nothing illegal.
Fun.
Fun, no exploiting alcohol or anything like that. Let's just keep them fun, safe.
But just punishment enough to...
Slightly embarrassing.
Yeah.
Slightly just uncomfortable, don't want to do this. So whatever great ideas you guys have, shoot them to us. Great. Be extremely happy to see them. and they might make their way onto our wheel.
Yeah, definitely. And the best part about it is anytime there is a punishment, we're probably going to do it. We haven't ironed out all the details yet, but we'll probably...
They're going to be on air.
They will be on air or on our YouTube channel.
They're going to be recorded. You're going to be able to see how that punishment went.
And enjoy it.
Yes, and hopefully well edited to where you can see tears of pain or just uncomfortability.
And tears of joy.
From another person. Yeah.
So anyways, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into our show overview real quick. We've got news, of course, ahead of this week 1. We had a listener send their team in and wanted us to give our thoughts on it.
Ooh,
so,
really?
Yeah.
I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Somebody DM'd us on IG. So we're going to go over their team, kind of tell them what they could work on, what they're strong at. And then we've got, of course, the Thursday night preview. Oh, my goodness. Our first preview, John. It's beautiful.
I know. I can't wait for the season to start. And they really, congratulations to the NFL. You guys really knew how to drag everyone and hype everyone up for the first game of the season.
Roger, if you're listening, first thing you didn't mess up.
This is the first bit of football we've had in forever. We've had no college football. Minimal college football going on so far this year. So really excited to see someone whose helmet and signature we have sitting here on this desk right now, who's going to be gifted to the winner of our listener league.
Man, it starts. Our listener league starts this week.
That means less than, I think our league's 12 weeks.
No, it's 16 weeks.
It's 16 weeks with the playoffs and the championship. So 16 weeks until we have to figure out a mailing address to send this beautiful helmet to.
Yeah.
We do have this Tyreek Hill helmet, and hopefully he's going to be someone who balls out this upcoming Thursday and can get you guys we'll talk about that in a minute. But hopefully he's someone who's going to ball out and get you guys a win. And if you guys want to take a look at it, make sure to check us out on YouTube, The Fantasy Tap. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. It's going to help us a lot more than a lot of other places, but help us out, subscribe, and take a look at this beautiful helmet that's sitting here.
And then, of course, at the end, we do have a couple start-sit questions. We got a bunch in on Twitter, IG, which, like John said, is at the Fantasy Tap on both of those. We got a bunch of questions in, but we're going to go over 2. We're going to save the rest for tomorrow, but we're going to go over 2 that pertain to tonight, I guess, Thursday night's game. So, and then we got our beer overview. So anyways, let's jump into our news around the league. Currently, D-Hop driving that Brinks truck to work now. 2-year deal, $54.5 million, 42.5 guaranteed. Did it by himself. Didn't need an agent. Boy.
Amazing for him. Absolutely great. Just that 2-year extension itself. He is working on already, I think it was a 3-year contract upcoming. So signs him to the Cardinals for a decent amount of time. They've got someone who Kyler Murray is going to be able to rely on well into DeAndre Hopkins' career, possibly finishing out his career on the high end and the prime of his career on this contract. So Kyler Murray, good on him.
Yeah, great I think it's great for both sides. DeAndre, he is getting a little older. I believe he's 28. So he's going to be hitting about 30, 31 by the time this deal's over. And then, it's going to be a great safety blanket, somebody great for Kyler Murray to escalate his talents and produce or grow over time. So great for the Cardinals, great for DeAndre. Awesome deal. We got another guy who's balling, big balling, and that is Deshaun Watson, somebody we're actually going to be talking about a little bit later. Got a 4-year, $156 million. Oh, 110.7 guaranteed. Love it for him. He deserves it. Dabo Sweeney did say that he was the Michael Jordan of football. Pretty close. As close as you can get. Other than, he's a baller. He's only 24 years old.
No, he's super young. He's the same age as Patrick Mahomes. And if you look back, you kind of see that he's had fantasy-relevant seasons the entire time. The Texans lock him down for a couple more years. to be able to build a roster around him to hopefully have a playoff window open up for them.
Mm-hmm.
He's someone who's shown that he can pass the ball, throw the ball, has a little bit of injury concern, but I think that the Texans just locked themselves up to be able to build a roster around him rather than worry about contracts and other positions at the time.
Yep, definitely. So, moving on, a little bit of a not so surprising after we've seen the camp news and everything come out continuously. It was continuous, just new, like almost daily. Bryan Edwards, Henry Ruggs are the starting 2 wide receivers for the Las Vegas Raiders. Pretty good to see. Obviously, Tyrell Williams went down with a season-ending injury, the torn labrum. They play the Panthers this week in Carolina. So, John, are you going to be starting either of these guys? Flexing, I guess.
It's sad. I actually don't have either of these guys in any of my leagues, but they're all people that I've been wanting to grab. It just seems that everyone else also wants to grab them, and they're people that people were grabbing early. If I had either of them, I think Bryan Edwards would be a solid flex play this week, just on a risk that he's going to be relevant enough to get there. Henry Ruggs, you drafted mid-round to either be a flex play, or maybe even if you're in a 3 wide receiver league, he's going to fill that wide receiver 3 role for you. So you're almost in a situation where, with what's going on with the Tyrell Williams situation, you're going to be playing him regardless. They're both rookies. Derek Carr can be a great quarterback. We've seen it before, and hopefully you can see it again this year. I would start Henry Ruggs as my wide receiver 3 or possibly a flex.
Yeah. I think in a 3 receiver league, I'd start him in a flex position personally. He was being drafted at ADP 103.3. In half-point leagues. So Bryan Edwards is a little too risky for me now. Henry Ruggs gives that big play upside. You get the ball in his hands. We saw at Alabama. Get the ball in his hands, and he could break free. But to be honest, if you have another option other than Ruggs, maybe not a rookie, probably start them just because you don't know what you're going to get yet.
Yeah, I mean, some people take their flex as high upside possibility, and some people like to use it as just like a high floor because they took the high upside and they're bigger players. If you're someone that wants the high upside, it could be them. If you want someone with a consistent floor, it's not going to be them because we do not know what's going to happen with that Oakland offense.
Right.
Or I'm sorry, that Las Vegas offense.
Yeah, the Las Vegas offense.
Man, I'm not used to that yet.
Oh, no. We got to get used to it.
That and the Washington football team.
Yeah.
Ready to start the season.
So, moving on, a little bit of running back news, rookie running back news. J.K. Dobbins, he is the 4th featured running back on the team on their depth chart, on the Ravens depth chart. And then...
You okay?
Yeah, I'm trying. This is the beer is kind of...
sour and drying.
Giving well, actually, my salivary glands are really overworking right now. Cam Akers, he is 3rd on the depth chart there for the Rams, and wasn't very promising. But McVay said that at least for the beginning of the season, it could be a running back by committee there. I know I spoke about J.K. Dobbins being one of my must-haves, and I still think that. Like we said, he's not going to really be producing until, 6 to 8 games in, and then I think he's really going to take off from there. But that Rams backfield, I've been avoiding all draft season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anyone that was going to be grabbing Cam Akers either reached on him or grabbed him at his ADP, just because there is that question about who is going to be that running back for the Rams. Personally, and as we both knew, J.K. Dobbins was not going to be someone who week 1 you're expecting him to be an extremely relevant back. I think the only rookie running backs that are going to be usable this week would be Clyde Edwards, obviously, and then possibly Antonio Gibson, depending on the depth of your leagues. So it's week one. There was a limited camp due to COVID. Not a lot of, there was enough camp time for people to figure out their roles, but not enough time for people to actually develop into them and get that comfortability with those offenses. And it's going to take a few weeks for people like J.K. Dobbins, Cam Akers, even Jonathan Taylor,
DeAndre Swift,
if he comes back healthy, to jump into those roles. Being that they're not being handed that opportunity right away, like someone like Clyde Edwards is going to be. Personally, due to this bet, I have to jump heavy on the train. James Robinson is going to have jumping the number one role on week one. So it doesn't scare me. We're expecting them to grab that towards the end of the season anyways.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into the James Robinson, but I agree pretty much overall there. You're not going to expect many of these rookies. Maybe Jonathan Taylor, in my opinion. He did jump up draft boards, especially there at the end, as you saw Marlon Mack taking a step back pretty much during camp, but week one especially, I mean, it's going to be difficult. The Colts do play the Jags, so we'll talk about him tomorrow, and that as we go over the games tomorrow. But overall, pretty much rookie running backs this year, you kind of knew going into it that it'd be a little bit before you really get some production out of them. But moving on, Mike Evans, he has an injury again to his hamstring, soft tissue injury. He missed the last 3 games last year due to the same injury. I'm not going to do a victory lap because there's a long season and he could still play.
Even if he plays 15, he could easily finish.
I mean,
depending on if we're wrong or right, he could easily finish up there. But no, it's no victory lap yet. It's actually kind of sad to see.
Very talented receiver.
Hate to see a talented receiver go down like that. Hate to see someone a lot of people spend a lot of draft capital in go to the point to where now you're questioning whether or not you want to play him, and you have to actually watch that injury report and tune into our live stream on Sunday to make sure if he's playing or not. Don't mind that sound. Just broke my computer again. Hate to see it, but something it's almost expected. That soft tissue injuries are something that linger and nag and come back, and that's why it's even scarier seeing it now going into week one when there's a lot of injuries that are barely going reported. Again, I'm happy that I faded Mike Evans a lot this season, unless he's fallen to me tremendously in drafts. It just, to be honest, hasn't happened. So
now, if he goes into tomorrow, or if he goes into Sunday and they say he's playing, and you have Mike Evans, are you forced to play him at that point?
Yeah, I mean, you're drafting him. If you drafted him, it was early enough to the point to where he's either your wide receiver 1, possibly your 2, and you have to play him. If he's going in at full capability, full practice, you're playing the guy you drafted him way too early not to. And he does have that upside. He is in a good offense. Season long, though, just not seeing what you want. But if you drafted him this early, you're playing him. You need to. You don't have an option.
Yeah, agreed. So, and then, of course, we'll get into our little bet here real quick. But Dario Gumbawale signed with the Jaguars, the running back from the Buccaneers earlier. He played last season there. He's a big, pretty decent pass catching back there for them. You don't think if he plays, you don't think he's going to affect James Robinson at all? Or a little bit maybe?
Well, first, I don't think even if he does see playtime, I don't think he's going to be getting a sizable enough role. And I do understand that the Jags are more than likely going to be going with mainly committee backfield, just throwing the ball whoever's hot. I just like the upside that's going on. And I'm the type of player where my flex position is my risk or reward player anyways. And so at that point, I'm going to take the risk. Season long, no.
Right.
Absolutely not. Dari's shown that he can be a great pass-catching back. They still have Chris Thompson, so they have another pass-catching back. But week one, I like the guy we making the bet on. I know you keep not wanting to bring it up.
Oh, we're bringing it up. Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette versus
Okay, you're ready for it.
Yeah,
So,
of course, bro. I do
all
not
right.
back down.
Okay, well, you keep pushing it off. So,
I wanted to wait till we get here when we talk about the Jags.
okay,
Full
so
circle.
our first bet that's going to be going on air is before recording, we had a conversation on whether or not Leonard Fournette would have a better week 1 finish. Are we going standard or PPR?
Half. Cut the difference.
It's not cutting the difference. It's close, but it's not.
It's between standard.
It's all right.
and
It's all right. We'll go half because I still think I'm correct. I believe that James Robinson will have a better half-point PPR finish than Leonard Fournette in week 1.
And I do not.
And that is going to be going on record. That is going to be spun on the wheel. So if you guys have any beautiful bets that you guys want,
Pretty cool.
send it to us. It might make it on in time. What we're going to be doing is more than likely doing our payouts for the bets 2 times a season, possibly 3 times a season, depending on how many we make.
Like I said, we haven't really ironed out the exact details, but we're putting them on record, and we got the wheel of failure.
We've got it now. So make sure to check those 2 guys out. I personally, again, think James Robinson is going to finish
Higher than Leonard Fournette? He's going to have a better week?
In week 1, absolutely.
I do not think so. So, anyways, let's move on to Ryan Whoopa on Instagram messaged us, and he just wanted to send us his team and kind of let us go over it, talk about it a wee bit. So, first off, I will say this. He's got a ton of wide receivers and not very many running backs. He's got a solid team overall, very solid players. Let me just name off his team real quick. Kyler Murray, Austin Eckler, Le'Veon Bell. Those are his 2 running backs. He's got 2 running backs.
2 running backs.
Yep. Devontae Adams, Allen Robinson, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Deontay Johnson, John Ross, Sammy Watkins are his wide receivers. Tight ends are Tyler Higbee and Jack Doyle. Kicker, Will Lutz, solid. And the Steelers defense, very solid as well. John, what is the first thing you would do? I think he's got a fine week 1 start to the season. But do you think?
Yeah.
I mean, Austin Eckler, Le'Veon
Who are
Bell.
you flexing?
He's flexing Cortland Sutton.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think he's got a fine week 1. But what are some options, or what would you say?
All right. First off, you cannot go into a season unless you're a 1 running back league. You cannot go into a season with only 2 running backs. Especially, I mean, you spent high draft capital. You got Austin Eckler. You got Le'Veon Bell. But obviously, you spent your first other 2 picks on Devontae Adams and Kyler Murray. Personally, I would have grabbed another running back either at that Allen Robinson spot or that Kyler Murray spot. It's too late to go back on that now. I'm looking for trades. I'm not looking for a waiver pickup. I need more solid depth at that running back
And
spot.
he's got very solid receivers.
And you've got 3 amazing receivers in Devontae Adams, Allen Robinson. You've got Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. That was a really odd stack when you're putting so much strength in your receivers. Personally, I would try to trade one of those receivers and see what you can get. If not, maybe Allen and load up onto a really solid running back. But you did grab some high upside guys like Deontay, John Ross, and Sammy Watkins, so good on that. Tyler Higbee, great receiver, or great tight end. And Jack Doyle, with Trey Burton being out, could be a huge threat in the early weeks coming up. So I don't hate your team.
Just need some more running back.
It has opportunity, but
time.
You need to check those waivers and see if any high upside guys are there that could gain a solid role, or start fielding trades for those receivers that you have. You have possibilities with your team, and just if it's managed right, you could win your league.
Yeah, so the first thing I would do is, and we talk about it a lot. I mean, I don't think you need a second tight end. I would drop Jack Doyle. I'm looking at I'm in a 10-team league. I'm on ESPN fantasy.
Is this a 10-team league?
Yes, it is a 10-team league standard. So
you really need running backs.
Yeah, so my suggestion would be drop Jack Doyle, and I'm looking at a few running backs here that are not owned very much according to the percentages according to ESPN. One player I would grab. Actually, John did just mention him, and I'm not saying he's great, but he could give you some depth for week one.
I'm so excited for this one, please.
James Robinson, he's 12.9% owned.
Yeah.
Another couple players I think have a lot higher upside though. Nyheim Hines, he's there. He's only owned in 36.2% of leagues. And Darrell Williams, he's only owned in 18.4% of leagues. So I think at least for the first couple weeks, Darrell Williams and Clyde Edwards will split carries, not necessarily touches, but overall touches, but he will split carries. So look and see if they're on your waiver wire. Drop that tight end, and like John said, see if you can coerce maybe getting a low end running back 2, high end running back 3 with one of those receivers.
Yeah, and I mean, depending on how you swing it, who knows who you can get. It's all about your trade talk and convincing the other person that they get value off of your trade. But again, your team has upside. Knowing it's 10-team now, you're not gonna. You could do it. Good roster management could win his league.
That's the thing.
Those receivers.
That's the thing.
And if those two running backs, Ball and Kyler, I mean, you've got a lot of upside in the players that you're starting.
You just need depth at running back. That's it.
At running back.
So,
but good team
overall
with the defense too.
Yeah, very nice. So, anyways, let's move on to our Thursday night preview: Chiefs versus Texans. I am so excited for this. The first preview of first preview of the year. First preview of the show. Like John said, it's our first time doing this in-season thing. So let's get into it.
Yeah, so we really couldn't have asked for a better fantasy game. I mean, it would have been all much better if the Texans didn't trade off DeAndre Hopkins in this offseason and they actually had him coming into play this season. But coming into this game, you've got the Kansas City Chiefs playing the Houston Texans in an AFC championship game rematch? The championship, right?
That's a good question. No. It was the week before that because the Chiefs beat the Titans in the AFC championship.
You're right. Okay.
Tannehill made it.
But either way, you've got two of the other than Lamar, two really high-end quarterbacks that are big point scorers, like to light up the field, have some minimal rushing upside. Kansas City's obviously full of insane burners, quick guys, light up the field, huge playmakers. Texans used to have D-Hop, but now just loaded with wide receiver 2s, loaded with a handful of good but not amazing receivers. So,
yeah, I mean, overall, there's some really solid plays this week. Let's just go down the list real quick and kind of touch on everybody who's going to be or who is playing, who's going to be playing, whatnot. So, Deshaun Watson, obviously you're going to be starting him. He's an obvious quarterback one. Texans wouldn't have gave him the money if he wasn't worth it. He produces in fantasy consistently. Now, the only question is, without DeAndre Hopkins, is that going to be the same? And I'm, at least for this matchup, I'm not going to be too scared. Last year, Kansas City gave up 327 points to opposing quarterbacks, which ranked 13th. Plus, they have Rashad Breeland, the Chiefs do, who is suspended for 4 games. So, another knock to their secondary. Obviously, they still have Tyrann Mathieu, who is a baller. He can really...
baller.
Yeah, and can control that whole secondary. But with a healthy Will Fuller, with Randall Cobb, and Duke Johnson out of the backfield, David Johnson out of the backfield, I think he's going to do enough to have a solid quarterback one finish this week.
Yeah, so obviously Deshaun Watson's an auto start. You've drafted him early enough. You took a reach on him as a quarterback because you didn't want someone else to grab him at that spot. Or someone you wanted more just when you really wanted to go quarterback. But realistically, someone you're going to play with that Kansas City defense being a little depleted compared to where they were last season, especially with the Rashad Breeland being out. The receivers they have are going to all beautiful receivers. I really do like Houston's receivers. I don't think they do not have a number one. It's just the health issues. And we're week one. The only person that really has a huge health asterisk on them is going to be Brandon Cooks. So I think Deshaun Watson's going to be able to see similar numbers to what he's normally used to. And you're expecting quarterback one numbers from him, especially in a game that's going to be really high scoring on both sides of the ball. So I think that Deshaun Watson's going to be a great play for you regardless, even if he's an auto start for you and you have no other choice.
Yep. Brandon Cooks is, like John said, is questionable with quad injury. One thing that I kind of brought up to John earlier, because we were talking about, who are we going to start? He's got a couple of shares of Will Fuller. I've got a few one share of Deshaun Watson, a couple of shares of Will Fuller as well. With the whole COVID situation, they're not going to have many fans in the stands, so it's not going to be that same Kansas City atmosphere, which could play into the Texans' advantage, or at least not having a disadvantage going there into Kansas City. But Brandon Cooks is, like I said, questionable. You drafted him around that ADP of 76.8. Between that end of sixth to beginning of eighth round. So I'm going to stay away from Brandon Cooks at this point, just because he was limited yesterday. He was limited today, and I'm not going to take that chance. I am a big proponent of staying away from Thursday night games. Obviously, this is the first game of the year, so it's not like they had a game on Sunday, but I don't like playing anybody or many people on Thursday nights, which is a weird. It's just a super. I'm not superstitious. I'm a little stitious.
Yeah.
So that is one of the things. It's a weird thing for me, but Brandon Cooks with the quad injury, I'm going to be staying away from him for tomorrow.
Yeah. So personally, I've been in the situation where I've been fading away from Cooks all drafts. I have 0 shares of him. I think you kind of mentioned that you didn't sound like you had any shares of him either. Well, it's because we're smart. I think that he's not going to be that one for him. And with the injuries coming into it, even if I did grab him, I grabbed him as that flex like you mentioned. I will flex someone else with the hopeful upside at that point that I grafted even later than him. He had great stints with the Rams. Good job on him. But with that hamstring injury, or the quad injury, just not going to be taking that risk on him. As far as Thursday night games, though, I'm extremely happy to play a Thursday night game, especially when it's in a matchup where it's two high-scoring offenses like the Texans and the Cheifs. So you're expecting a lot of points, and with points comes yards. So it's really on the matchup for me.
Yeah, I understand. But let's get into Will Fuller. You drafted him around the same ADP of Brandon Cooks, 75.9. So around that end of sixth, beginning of the eighth point in there. When Will Fuller is healthy, he is a must start. And I mean, I think John thinks the same this week that he is a must start because he's going to be their number one receiver. And Deshaun, as long as he's healthy and stays healthy this week, then he's going to put up a ton of points. So how do you feel about Will Fuller for Thursday night? Are you comfortable with playing him as a wide receiver 2 or a flex?
Yeah, so personally, I have him, like we said, in a couple leagues. And if he's in a league where I have him, he's playing. Really excited to see him with these matchups. Kansas City's defense, as we've mentioned already, is a little depleted. He's someone where I think is going to be getting a huge opportunity based off of the 162 targets that were vacated in Houston's offense this year. So he's going to be getting a share of those with Brandon Cooks out, who was signed to replace another heavy wide receiver role in that offense. I think this is going to be one of those games where you play him. We mentioned him earlier in the show a few episodes back, and we even said when he's healthy, you play him. He has those huge upside games. He has those games where he finishes as wide receiver 1 numbers. But he's healthy. It's week 1. He's just coming out of camp. There's no injury designation. There's no reports of him being injured. You're looking for him to absolutely ball. He's going to have the opportunity with DeAndre Hopkins not being there, Brandon Cooks not being there. I think he's going to be absolutely great. I mean, he's had 3 weeks in the 2018 season where he finished with over 21 points a game. And then in 2019, he had 3 weeks, but again, he only played 8 games last season.
Right.
So I think he's going to be a baller.
Yeah.
Grab him while he's healthy and play him when he's healthy.
Yep.
Worry about him later.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely, I would be very comfortable with playing Will Fuller as a flex spot. Moving on to Randall Cobb, I'm not going to be playing him at all this week. Even with Brandon Cooks out, I don't think that the offense is going to do enough. There's a lot of predictions that it's going to be a high-scoring game, and it could potentially be, but I don't think that Randall Cobb's going to be a very integral part in this. Last year, the Chiefs only gave up the second least amount of points to wide receivers. I think Will Fuller is going to get the bulk of the targets, and then then the remaining sprinkled in between Randall Cobb, Kenny Stills potentially as long as he's healthy, and then their tight ends. But I only think really in the receiving game for the Texans that Will Fuller will be the only fantasy relevant wide receiver this week.
I would have to agree with you, especially with the questionability of how that target share gets divided without DeAndre there. And with David Johnson in the backfield, we don't know if Deshaun's going to favor a wide receiver. We don't know if he's going to be spreading the ball out equally between the 3 on the field or the 2, with one being slightly favored. So until we know that, it's a little hard to predict anyone outside of Will Fuller, who he has a connection with, who he's been there multiple seasons with, has shown what he can do with Will Fuller. Randall Cobb's kind of a risky play for me. He's only someone I'm going to play in really deep leagues. But the upside is there in a deep league for him to be played. So I'm not fading completely away from him, but any sort of standard league that you're going to be set up for, then he's not getting that roster spot for me.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely. So moving on real quick to the Texans running backs, David Johnson and Duke Johnson. David Johnson has been very highly touted this offseason, going around the 3rd round or so, around that Le'Veon Bell range, and people are really hot on him this year. And I understand that he used to be this a baller. He used to, he would finish top 2, top 3 fantasy running backs overall, and not a problem. But it's not the David Johnson of old. Now he does have a pretty decent matchup going off of last year's parameters for the Chiefs defense. They gave up 360 points to opposing running backs, and that was 27th overall in the league. So not the best run defense. And you drafted David Johnson so high that he's probably either your running back 2, potentially a running back 1 if you went wide receiver. So definitely somebody. You're forced to start. I don't have any shares of him. I've been fading him this year, but I do think he may be able to put up that 12 to 13 point total in a half PPR league.
Yeah, so I would only be drafting David Johnson in the situation where I'm sorry, not drafting. I would only be roster playing David Johnson in a situation where I drafted him and he didn't just fall to me. If I picked him up anywhere around his ADP, he's getting his play just because I had to waste the pick on him.
Right.
But I mean, the Kansas City defensive line is scary. They just extended Chris Jones in this offseason. Their defensive ends slightly scary as well. I'm not sure if I'm not expecting a big game from him, but this week, if you draft him, you're playing him. I'm not grabbing him in any sort of DFS. I'm not choosing to roster him. I'm just living with the mistake at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Duke Johnson, are you gonna?
No.
Yeah.
Duke, you're only picking up. You're literally only grabbing Duke Johnson in the event that David Johnson does go down. And at that point, it's only going to be for a week or two until they find another person to committee that backfield with, along with Duke Johnson. But someone I like grabbing, I only grabbed in the last round.
Yeah.
Like, he was only grabbed as a handcuff for a week or two.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, anyways, moving on to the Chiefs real quick. Patrick Mahomes, obvious sit for this week, I would say.
Yeah, with this Houston defense, you got to be real careful. You don't know if Patrick Mahomes has the skill. I'm just kidding, guys.
Yeah,
Patrick Mahomes, obviously, auto start, drafted as the quarterback 1, quarterback 2 in any sort of format.
Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill, obviously, an auto start this week.
Travis Kelce.
Auto start this week.
Yeah, you're spending so much draft capital on him now. Clyde Edwards.
He is an auto start this week. For me, only because of the draft capital you've spent on to grab him if you've drafted in the last 3 to 4 weeks. If you grabbed him much earlier, right after the NFL draft, and you have and you guys drafted really early, you didn't have to spend that much on him. A flex player, for me personally.
So you're still starting him?
Questionable, unless I have someone super solid that I've already loaded my flex with, or I have prepped for that flex play. A lot of there's only been a handful of running backs that have come into the league week 1 of their rookie season and have dealt a huge fantasy payout. Ezekiel Elliott saw it. Kareem Hunt saw it with Kansas City. Saquon saw it. But we're talking about someone who's not just a pure rusher, and not even just a huge rusher. He's not a big guy. He's not a bruiser.
5'7".
Yeah. And all those guys we just talked about are, when we talk about people that are going to be playing that utility role, that are going to be pass catching backs and et cetera, you're talking about Christian McCaffrey. Alvin Kamara would be like the best person we could expect him to be, if not just a little bit above them, which would be setting a new bar. So they didn't break out until weeks 4 of their seasons. And I don't know if that's because of who they had ahead of them when they were drafted. But realistically, I don't see Clyde Edwards with this limited camp. I don't want to take that risk on him. But if I spent that draft pick on him, I'm living with that risk because it's hard to have drafted for that mistake of him not having a breakout game already. And that upside is obviously insane. I mean, Kareem Hunt put up 44 points in a PPR league, his week 1, game 1 with the Kansas City Chiefs offense. Different type of player, but talented in a different way. So we'll see what happens. Playing him if I have to, more than likely flexing him though.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think he's going to get plenty of work in the passing game. There are reports of him splitting touches with Darrell Williams, who, if you're going to, just to jump around real quick, if you're going to start Darrell Williams any week this year, this is the week to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, I guess that's really all we have to say about Darrell Williams.
That went quick.
Yep. So, but the Texans, just to give you guys a little backstory on the Texans last year. Obviously, last year, we see it every year. You can't really base your entire fantasy season off of what the defense did last year because it can change in an instant.
Roster cuts, defensive coach changing, schematic changing, understanding new offenses.
So the Texans last year finished 25th overall, or seven positions away from last, allowing 349 points to the running back all year. So not a great team against the running back. I do think that Clyde Edwards is going to get enough pass catching work to be fantasy relevant this week and have a strong game. Darrell Williams, if you can, maybe flex if you're very weak. If it's a very deep league.
A deep league flex, yeah.
Potentially. But like I said, this would be the best week to flex him if you have to or need to. Maybe an injury concern or whatever for a flex spot. But I'm very comfortable with playing Clyde Edwards this week. I do think that he'll get some touches or some carries and then a good amount of pass catching work. Now, let's move to Sammy Watkins. He's currently wide receiver 2 on the depth chart of the for the Chiefs, and then Mecole Hardman's right behind him at 3. Are you going to flex either of these guys this week?
Personally, no on either of them. At least for Sammy, I just don't trust him as far as the flex. He's got huge boomer bust potential, but last year he only boomed once.
Week one?
Week 1. And, it was against Jacksonville, who had one of the best defenses of the season last year, as we all know. But no, realistically, that was on those 3 touchdowns. Not something that you can predict or can count on. So I'm not even picking up Sammy Watkins this year. I know he was injured for a few games last year. So not playing him week 1. Mecole Hardman is someone I have been drafting, though.
Oh, I know.
Still not playing him. I know I made you draft him in one of our co-commissioner leagues.
I drafted him outside of that, too.
Oh, nice.
One time.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah.
But no, realistically, I think Mecole's going to take a few weeks to step into that full-on wide receiver 2 role. I see a huge year for him. He's one of my favorite second-year receivers coming into the year. But that has a lot to do with the offense that he's on. So I still wouldn't play him this week. Don't think it's going to happen for him. Not going to play Sammy either. There's just so many other people who are going to be getting the ball between Travis, between Tyreek, and between Clyde. I just don't see Sammy or Mecole getting enough to make me comfortable enough to flex them or even play them this week.
I mean, but I think Sammy I would be comfortable with this week. Just like you said, last year he broke out at the beginning of the season, and I think that's I don't think he's going to break out, but I do think he's going to have a pretty decent week, a flex-worthy week this week, just because the Texans' defense wasn't great against the pass or against wide receivers last year. So I do think he'll put up a decent enough amount of points, and if he gets in the end zone, then add that to there. But Mecole, I do think that. Well, I would, stay away from him for this week because he is a big boomer bust guy, and eventually he will take over that wide receiver 2 spot and be a more integral piece of the offense there in Kansas City. But I don't think it'll be this week. So
you want to call him boomer bust, but he had more fantasy finish relevant weeks than Sammy Watkins did last year, and that was even after Tyreek Hill was back fully capable.
Yeah, but Sammy was hurt, like you said, last year. He had the one boom. I'm not saying that Sammy is a very consistent receiver whatsoever because we've seen throughout his entire career that he is up and down. But right now, Sammy's healthy. And
Sammy, he only missed 4 games last season.
Right,
it's not like he missed a huge chunk.
But I'm saying Sammy's healthy right now, like he was at the beginning of the season last year, and he got injured there at the middle of the season. So
Week 4.
Yeah, okay, so middle of the season, and I think that we've seen it through his entire career.
I don't know. Mecole's biggest weeks were week 2 and 3, right after when Sammy was fully healthy.
Yeah, but he got nicked up there in I believe the second game. He still played, but he had the big game in weeks 1, he picked up, and he got a little banged up. He missed I believe 4 through. I think he makes 4 games in the middle there, but
yeah, it was weeks 5, 6, 7, and he missed another week in week 13.
So, like I said, I mean, I do want a piece of it. of that offense, and I wouldn't mind flexing Sammy personally. So, but let's move on to our last segment, and that is start sit questions of for tomorrow, or that are relevant to tomorrow. John, Marquise Hollywood Brown versus the Browns, or Will Fuller at Kansas City?
Oh, this one's really hard. I'm going Will Fuller, and that's mainly due to the fact that, like I mentioned before, like if there's a week to play Will Fuller, it's going to be right now when the supposed number one receiver for that team, or the only one competing with him for that number one role, is apparently out or limited in practice due to a current injury. I'm going to use Will Fuller right now. I'm going to play him. I'm going to play him over Hollywood Brown, who we've seen last season be pretty boom or bust. Could be stepping into a huge role this year. But versus the Browns, I mean, they don't have the best cornerbacks, but they don't have bad ones. Their coverage isn't terrible. Will Fuller at Kansas City, their cornerbacks are rather not spectacular. I think that Deshaun Watson's going to be able to light up the field and put up enough points. I do not see Lamar lighting up the passing game enough to where Marquise is going to outperform Will Fuller this week with
Deshaun?
brain fart.
What are you talking about?
With Brandon Cooks being out this week.
Yeah, I would agree. Will Fuller, I'm going to start him over Marquise this week. The Browns' offense or defense last year against the wide receiver only allowed 306 points, which against the wide receiver last year. So, and that was 7th overall. So they had a pretty solid defense against wide receivers. Now, obviously, Marquise does give you that big play ability, but I do think a ton of targets will come, or a decent amount, a good amount of targets will come to Will Fuller tomorrow or tonight. So I agree with you there. I'm going to be starting Will Fuller. And then we also had a second question, and this is a pick two. So pick two between Will Fuller, again, Devontae Parker, or Stephon Diggs.
So, again, I'm grabbing Will Fuller, and this again is becoming based off of the lack of depth and the lack of skill coming from the lack of high-end skill coming from the Kansas City cornerback group. And we're talking Charvarius Ward and Rashad Fenton. So taking Will Fuller there. As far as Stephon Diggs versus Devontae Parker, I know Mike's going to be mad when I say this, so I'm not going to.
I'm not going to be mad. I'm never mad.
All right, so if I was going to be realistic, I'm taking Stephon Diggs. Diggs.
Now I'm mad.
If I'm being realistic, I'm grabbing Stephon Diggs. The Jets' defense has been depleted. They just lost their safety, Jamal Adams, going to the Seahawks. Their offense isn't great. Adam Gase is terrible. Josh Allen's a great deep ball thrower. Stephon Diggs is someone who has amazing yards after catch and has and pretty decent in the deep ball opportunities. So I think that he's just going to find himself into a great opportunity based on the bad defense, based on the new quarterback play, and them kind of wanting to show off their new offense and what's going on with that person they just picked up. I think Stephon Diggs is going to do it. I'd really love to tell everyone that I'd love to grab Devontae Parker in this situation, just based off the fact that he's the one who clowned Stephon Gilmore the most last season. But that was a one-game thing. It's not something I would love to compare to Stephon Diggs going up against almost nothing on the Jets cornerback and safety.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you there. I mean, we talked a little bit earlier, and he was throwing up Devontae or Stephon, and I'm a little surprised, but I agree. You know, Will Fuller, easy play, especially over even over Devontae. I know, like John said, he didn't make Stephon look great at the last week of last season. So, and then I just don't know if I see that happening again up in Foxborough with Cam Newton there leading that offense and potentially the atmosphere, the coaching. It's very difficult. to project, but I would start definitely Will Fuller and Stephon Diggs. That defense up in New York is just not going to be very good. The whole team really isn't.
Yeah, honestly, if the Bills were playing almost any other team right now, I would probably take Devontae Parker in this situation. I mean, last year he did put up, it was on 11 targets. He had 8 receptions for 137 yards. That was
Ballin'.
That was 50 yards to 60 yards more than the next best receiver being shadowed by Gilmore that season. So I think that he's been playing him for a few years now, especially when Gilmore is playing for the Bills. So I love Devontae Parker versus Gilmore. That's a cocky bet I would love to take one day.
I bet you can, Bovada.
I probably could. It's but lose it all is kind of failing due to lack of funds. So
well, we haven't started yet.
Oh, it started. It failed already.
Oh, geez.
But no, great job. Really do enjoy Diggs though. Hopefully going to be balling it up. Someone I've been hot on this entire offseason.
I've got a nice stack. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs.
I
like it for this week.
That's sexy.
I like it for this week. So, but anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that is our show. Before we get into the beer of the week, I appreciate you guys listening.
And welcome to the NFL football season.
Oh my goodness, that's a great sound. Great sound. But you know what else is a great sound, John?
Which one?
This one.
Ooh, I know that sound.
I like it.
That means I have to review this beer I've been drinking, which
quite good.
Fairly good.
Quite.
Congratulations, Canada.
Is it gonna hit a 9? Oh,
it's not.
No, it close though. I mean, this is probably going to be the highest I've rated a beer. I'm not a big sour guy, but like I said, we've been drinking the Jam Up the Mash dry hopped sour from Collective Arts Brewing out of Hamilton, Ontario in Canada. So shout out to our Canadian friends, Canadian brothers, sisters up there. Y'all are awesome. Brewing some great beer. But anyways, Collective Art Brewing was founded by Matt Johnson and Bob Russell. What a name.
I thought you were about to say Bob Ross. I got so excited.
No, Bob Russell. Like I said, up in Hamilton, Ontario. There's 2 tap rooms currently, one in Hamilton, one in Brooklyn. It's pretty neat. They opened up as a like a, not bluegrass, but what do I want to say? I guess, okay, so they're a grassroots craft brewery is what they're called, which is where they kind of got the name. Each can has pretty cool artwork on it. The ones we're drinking has like a rhino underwater with some like dolphin and fish in the back, which is pretty cool. It's red and blue and a hint of purple and pinkish in there. But like I said, each can has a ton of different artwork on it, from whether it's from different artists that have inspired it or whatnot. It's really neat. You should check out their website. They've got a whole collection on there. You can go to collectiveartsbrewing.com. Really nice website. They also do spirits as well, and you can do some research on the art, different artwork and stuff like that. But John, you want to get into what's put inside the art inside the art?
The art inside the art. Yes, so this is a hoppy sour. It's going to be Jam Up the Mash. Current ABV is going to be 5.2%. It was checked in at a 35 IBU. They use the Nelson Seguin hops. A lot of words that are hard to pronounce for someone who just struggles sometimes with reading. And then also some Citra hops, which give it that obvious citrus smell, this obvious citrus flavor. It is fairly sour, but also does have a nice little calm and relaxing and cool hoppy flavor that just kind of mellows everything out right on that citrus. But it doesn't mellow to the point where the citrus gets like cut out. It gives you that citrus bite through the whole ride until it dissipates in the back of your tongue.
The whole ride.
Personally, really great. A love it a lot.
I like it a lot.
It's not gonna break into that nines, but it's gonna ride out there. As a sour, really did enjoy this. It had a really good mellow mix with that hop flavor that you get coming through.
Definitely.
The can art's beautiful. Canada, I salute you.
Shout out.
So personally, I'm not sure if you're ready to get into your ratings.
Go ahead.
I'm going to give this a 9 flat.
No, so you are in the 9s.
I'm not breaking into the 9s.
But you're a 9.
I'm a 9.
That's a 9. I'm going to give it an 8.8. Very good
rating?
beer. That is my highest rating. And John, there's one more in the fridge, and I'm going to grab that before I go home.
It's
so
it's mine.
No, well, I don't think so. So
This is my first one.
no, that's your third. So
It's my second.
nope, it's your
My
third.
first.
Oh, it is your second. So
It's either my first or my second. Did you
This
get
is
a
my
4-pack
first.
or a 6-pack?
I got a 4-pack. It is my first.
It's my first.
No, it's your second.
You're a lie.
So anyways, we found it at our ABC Liquor. You can go to their website and check out, there's a beer finder. So you can kind of see where it is near you. Definitely check it out. They also, have Instagram, Twitter, and stuff like that. It's collectivebrew.com. They've got a bunch of followers. We need that many.
Hey, you guys know what you guys should do?
What's that?
We have an Instagram and a Twitter.
Oh, yes.
It's going to be at the Fantasy Tab. And if you guys want to take your time, go on by, check us out. Maybe send us a message.
We even have a TikTok.
We do?
Start here soon.
Yeah. If you guys want to check us out at the Fantasy Tap on all of your social medias, send us your favorite beers in your area. Send us your fantasy football advice. It is time for those start-sit questions to be coming in and be relevant.
Big time.
These are the ones that are going to help you win your leagues. This is the time where it's important. Winning a week is what gets you into the championship. So it's not just about those season-long finishes. It's about those week-in, week-out finishes.
Yep.
So make sure you guys reach out to us.
This is when the season starts. Yes, you could have had an amazing draft, but if you don't play those players right or start them when they should be started or sit them when they need to be started, then
or make those waiver wire pickups, or make those trades, get rid of those bums before everyone knows they're bums, pick up those studs before people know they're studs, and we're going to help you guys spot those throughout these next few weeks here. We've got about 16 weeks coming up of great shows helping you guys win some money, win some bragging rights, and just kill it moving forward. But we do need some beer recommendations from you. We do want some more questions to read live to you guys on the show. So if you guys want to send them, it's going to be at the Fantasy Tap for your Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and then the Fantasy Tap at gmail.com for your emails. Thank you so much for joining us for the beginning of the season. It's Happy Thursday, so enjoy the game tonight, guys. We will reach out to you tomorrow, let you know how everyone did.
Yep.
See what goes on, and with those waiver wire pickups.
grab one of the jam up the mashes, dry hop sours for tomorrow's game. Love ya.